Hello dear student, myself Kanchan Vishramji Kumbhalkar, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry of Sri Shivaji College of Arts, Commerce and Science Akola. This is my second lecture on non-aqueous solvents, which is a part of paper 1 Inorganic Chemistry for MSc first year first sem. So let's start the lecture number 2nd. In this lecture, we will discuss with the characteristics properties of a solvent. The characteristics properties of a solvent. Some characteristics, physical and chemical properties of a solvent which govern its usefulness as a solvent are given below. First one is the melting point and boiling point. Next, heat of fusion and evaporation, and the dielectric constant. These are the different 5 properties which govern, on the basis of which the quality of solvent is decided as a good quality of solvent or a bad quality of solvent for a particular solute. So let's check out first of all the melting point and the boiling point. Now melting point and boiling point. The melting and boiling point of a solvent indicate the range temperature over which it can exist in a liquid state under atmospheric pressure. The melting and boiling point of various solvents along with their critical temperature and critical pressure has been given in a table number 1, which is given in a next slide. Before that, what is the definition of melting point? What is meant by melting point or boiling point? When we are considering the melting point, when the solid material get melted to the liquid phase, means for example ice. When we are considering the melting point, a 0 is a melting point or the freezing point of a water, 0 degree Celsius, but this definition is not correct. A 0 degree Celsius at 1 atmospheric pressure is the exact value for that of the melting or freezing point of that of the water. Means, what is the definition of melting point of water? For a water, 0 degree Celsius at a 1 atmospheric pressure is nothing but a melting point. Now, melting point, in a melting point, the solid phase get converted into the liquid phase. If we are talking about the freezing point, the liquid phase get converted into the solid phase, that is known as the freezing point. Now, for example, water having 0 degree Celsius at 1 atmospheric pressure, a melting point, or it is also considered as the freezing point. Melting point means above the temperature, means if we are considering 1 degree Celsius also, the ice, that is solid H2O, get melted into a liquid form. And if we are considering the freezing point, below the 0 degree Celsius, the liquid form of water get converted into the solid form of water. Means the 0 degree Celsius but at a 1 atmospheric pressure can be considered as the melting point. Similarly, the boiling point. For example, again the water. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Is this correct? No. The water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at a 1 atmospheric pressure. This is the correct statement. Means with respect to the pressure, the temperature or the boiling point can be get fluctuated. Means the definition of melting or boiling point is that the conversion of solid to the liquid at a 1 atmospheric pressure or atmospheric pressure is known as melting point, and the boiling point, it is nothing but a temperature at atmospheric pressure above which the liquid get converted into the gaseous phase, that is known as the boiling point. And basically any solvent, generally we are using a solvent in a liquid phase, if the melting point and a boiling point having a high range, means it indicates that the solvent exists in a liquid phase in that particular temperature range. For example, again the water in between 0 degree Celsius to the 100 degree Celsius at atmospheric pressure is present in a liquid state, means this much amount of temperature range is very good, eligible to be used a water as a solvent. So hence the first characteristics property of a solvent is counted as a melting point and the boiling point. Now we are comparing the various solvents with their melting point, boiling point and critical temperature and critical pressure. Before moving toward the table 1, we must discuss what is meant by critical temperature and critical pressure. Critical temperature means, as we know that if the liquid, if suppose gases, vapors, if you pressurize it, then also the gases get converted into the liquid phase because of the compression by applying compression, by applying a pressure, at the same normal temperature the gaseous phase get converted into the liquid phase. This is the pressurized liquefaction. But a critical temperature means a particular temperature above which, a critical temperature means a temperature above which if you pressurize the gas at any extent, it does not convert into the liquid phase. So basically, what is the basic concept? Now suppose consider we have a vapors of water and we have to convert it into a liquid water. Now what is the method? Either you drop the temperature, means above 100 degree Celsius the water exists in a vapor phase. Now you decrease the temperature, then that vapor phase get converted into the liquid phase, means by decreasing the temperature you can convert a vapor phase into the liquid phase. Similarly, by applying a pressure to the vapor, because of the compression the volume has been decreases and the vapor phase get again converted into the liquid phase. But in this case you maintain a temperature but you are increasing a pressure. In a first case you are maintaining a pressure constant, atmospheric pressure, but you are decreasing a temperature. In second case you are maintaining a temperature but you are increasing the pressure. Hence due to increasing pressure, again the vapor phase or a gaseous phase get converted into the liquid phase. But it is not possible at every temperature. A maximum temperature, a highest maximum level of temperature above which is not possible by applying a pressure, the gas cannot convert it into liquid or liquefaction is not possible, then it is considered as the critical temperature. And related with that critical temperature, the pressure is counted as the critical pressure. So let's check out the various solvent with the various characterization. Now these are the various solvents has been given, that is sulfuric acid. What is the melting or freezing point? About 10.4 degrees Celsius that has been melted, and below that the freezed out. So this is the 10.4 degrees Celsius for the sulfuric acid, and its boiling point means up to the 300 degrees Celsius sulfuric acid remain a liquid phase, above which that has been get converted into the vapor phase. The critical temperature and critical pressure is not mentioned here. Water, the 0 degree Celsius, above the 0 degree Celsius it get melt, below the 0 degree Celsius it gets freeze. So melting point or freezing point is considered as the point above which it melts, below which it freeze. 100 degree Celsius at a 1 atmospheric pressure, or this is the all these terms is at a normal pressure. When you are increasing pressure they can get liquefied, but at a particular range of temperature above 374 degrees Celsius if you are pressurizing the water vapors, they are not eligible to give a liquid. Water in a liquid phase is not eligible to form above this temperature, and this temperature is a critical temperature for that of the water. Similarly, ammonia, this is the melting point of the ammonia. We know that ammonia is in a gaseous phase. So for that purpose, if you want it in liquid phase, we should maintain this much amount of temperature, which is in a minus, and at about 33.5 degrees Celsius, minus 33.5 degrees Celsius, it boils and it get converted into gaseous phase. And if we want to compress it, we get converted into the liquid ammonia. Then below 132.4 degrees Celsius it is possible, but above that temperature, by applying a pressure, you are not eligible to form a gaseous phase of ammonia to the liquid phase of ammonia. Similarly, sulfur dioxide, it show the ranges of that of the melting point and boiling point, that is 0 degrees Celsius, it is less than 0 degrees Celsius. In both cases, ammonia, then sulfur dioxide, the degree Celsius less than 0 degrees Celsius means in a minus, they boils. Hence, it has been cleared that at a normal temperature, room temperature, ammonia and sulfur dioxide is in a gaseous phase. So on the behalf of this melting point, boiling point, critical constant and critical pressure and critical temperature, it has been cleared that what is the range of that solvent in a liquid phase and gaseous phase, is that exists in a liquid phase or gaseous phase, so on. So this is the identification on the basis of this some characterization, that is melting point, boiling point and critical constant. Because of the above values, while water exists as a liquid at ordinary temperature and pressure, ammonia and sulfur dioxide is act as that of the gaseous under this condition. So these gases therefore act as solvent at a low temperature only. They cannot be used as a solvent at a normal room temperature. Now next point is that heat of fusion and evaporation. Now fusion means what? When we are considering two molecules, two solid to solid mixing, that is considered as that of the fusion. And evaporation means what? When evaporation takes place, for that purpose the amount of heat required, then that is known as the heat of evaporation. Now we know that evaporation and fusion, it is also important regarding the quality of solvent. The heat absorbed by 1 mole of substance to change from solid to liquid state is called its molar heat of fusion. So solid to liquid or liquid to solid conversion is nothing but a heat of fusion. The heat required to fuse or the conversion of solid to the liquid state is called as that of the heat of fusion, and liquid to the gases is known as the heat of evaporation. The heat absorbed by 1 mole of a substance to change from solid to liquid state is called its molar heat of fusion. Likewise, the heat of absorbed by 1 mole of substance to change from liquid to vapor is called its molar heat of vaporization. It is molar heat, hence it is counted for a 1 mole. 1 mole means what? The overall total amount of, for example, NaCl or NaOH. NaOH having a 40 unit of NaOH or 40 gram of NaOH is counted as a 1 mole, because its molecular weight is total equal to 40. Hence, for a 1 mole of a substance which get changed from solid to liquid by absorbing a particular amount of heat is known as the heat of fusion. Heat of evaporation means there is a conversion of liquid to the vapor. Solid to liquid, heat of fusion; liquid to vapor, heat of evaporation. And because of it is counted for a 1 mole, hence it is known as the molar heat of fusion or molar heat of evaporation or vaporization. This constant for water, ammonia and sulfur dioxide and hydrogen fluoride has been given in a table number 2. So these are the comparative studies for that of the heat of fusion and heat of vaporization for some solvent. Now first of all compare the water. The molar heat of fusion means the conversion of solid to the liquid. For that of the water, this much amount of heat is required. And for conversion of liquid to the gases, the water requires this much amount of heat. Similarly, ammonia, it requires less heat as compared to water in both cases, heat of fusion and heat of vaporization. Next one, sulfur dioxide. In sulfur dioxide, it is counted as that of the more as compared to conversion of heat of fusion, means solid to liquid it required much more energy as compared to water, but in compared to liquid to gases it required less as compared to water. And hydrogen fluoride HF, that is it contained less molar heat of fusion, that is solid to liquid, but liquid to gases required much more heat as compared to this ammonia and sulfur dioxide. So this is the comparative studies of that of the molar heat of fusion and vaporization. The heat of fusion and vaporization indicate the nature and strength of forces by which the molecule of the solvent are held together in the solid or liquid state. Obviously, the heat required to break. For example, we know that in a water, ice, it is properly arranged, the molecular bonding is strong as compared to the liquid phase of water. Then in a gaseous phase, the intermolecular distance is very high, the intermolecular bonding is very weak, so they are scattered. So as we know that heat of fusion means conversion of solid to liquid. If that solid is very properly packed, then it required a high energy, means on the basis of heat of fusion and heat of vaporization amount, you can identify the intermolecular force of attraction between the molecules. Means the heat of fusion and vaporization indicate the nature and strength of forces with which the molecule of the solvents are held together in the solid or the liquid state. High the heat of vaporization of a liquid indicate that the intermolecular forces in it are strong. A better idea of intermolecular forces is obtained by dividing the heat of vaporization by the boiling point. For normal liquids, the ratio of heat of vaporization expressed in joules to the boiling point in a Kelvin is a constant known as Thornton constant. This constant is about 19 joule per Kelvin per mole for a normal liquids. Such liquids have single molecules without any bonds between them. A higher value of constant indicates association of molecules. The molecules of liquids which undergo associations are polar. The common solvents like water, ammonia, hydrogen fluoride and alcohol are all associated liquid. It is evident from this table that heat of fusion of water and ammonia are nearly the same. This indicates that the force which hold molecule together in a water and ammonia are of the same magnitude. The heat of fusion of sulfur dioxide is comparatively high, while that of the hydrogen fluoride is comparatively low, indicating that while the force holding SO2 molecule together is strong, the force holding HF molecule is weaker. So SO2 is a much more stronger as compared to the hydrogen fluoride, and water ammonia is having about equal amount of heat of required, means the molecular arrangement or the intermolecular force of attraction between the molecules of ammonia and water is considered as the similar one. Now next characterization is the dielectric constant. The Coulomb force F between a cation and a anion is given by expression, that is F is equal to Q1 into Q2 upon epsilon in bracket R1 plus R2 to the whole square, where Q1 and Q2 are the charges. Q1 is for that of the cation and Q2 is for that of the anion. R1 and R2 are the radii of the two ions, and F is counted as that of the dielectric and it is related with that of the dielectric constant. A high value of indicate that a small amount of energy will be required to separate the ions, and hence it will be easy to dissolve an ionic solvent. What is the basic definition? That is the capacity of solvent to apart the solute ions from each other. That capacity is known as the dielectric constant of that solvent. Thus, dielectric constant in general determines the ability of a solvent to dissolve the ionic compound. For example, solvents such as anhydrous HF, hydrogen fluoride, and water, which have high dielectric constant, are the best solvent for ionic and polar compound. On the other hand, solvent like liquid ammonia and liquid sulfur dioxide with a low dielectric constant show decreased ability to dissolve ionic compounds, especially those containing multi-charges ion. Thus, carbonates, sulfates, phosphates are practically insoluble in ammonia and liquid sulfur dioxide. So, the dielectric constant is the most important point for the purpose of the good quality of solvent. The high value for dielectric constant, that can be considered as the good value for that of the good quality of that solvent. Now these are some comparatives. Water having a dipole moment that is 1.85 and its dielectric constant is 78.5 at a 25 degrees Celsius. Ammonia having a 22.0 means at this temperature, means out of all this, the water and a hydrogen fluoride, this is at a normal temperature and this is at a 0 degree Celsius. So that also affect, means the water is counted as the best solvent on the basis of dielectric constant. The dielectric constant and the polarity of the solvent are closely related. Polarity means what? The formation of poles, that is positive and negative charges. So the dielectric constant and the polarity of solvent are closely related. An ionizing solvent not only has a large dipole moment but also has a large dielectric constant. This evident from that of this table number 3. So in today's lecture we discuss about melting point, boiling point, heat of evaporation, heat of vaporization and heat of fusion, and the dielectric constant. All these properties decide that the solvent is eligible for the solute in a range of temperature, it is good or bad. So this is all about in this lecture. In next lecture we will start with the non-aqueous solvent, that is anhydrous sulfuric acid. Up to then, take care, be safe, stay safe. Thank you very much.